Good. All right, we'll continue where we left off yesterday. The picture is a little different. I'm in a different room and I'm using a different computer, but thank God it is working. All right. So we're talking about the blessing that Yaakov gave to the tribe of ASHER, the tribe of his sons, one of his sons. Each son, of course, becomes one of the whole Shvatim, whole Shevet, which is a tribe. And so he gave a special blessing to Asher that his foot will be dipped in oil. He says something like that is also regarding to Moshiach. It says Moshiach, it says his foot will stand on the mountain of olives, Har HaZeitim, which the mountain of olives, that's the source of the olives, and the olives are the source of the oil. So what is oil? Oil is, according to Kabbalistic teachings, oil corresponds to the deepest aspects of awareness of God. Chachma, it's called. And Asher will merit to this level and eventually bring the Moshiach, who will even be higher than this level because of his feet. He put his feet. And the Rebbe said, I'm just doing a little summary of what we learned. So the Rebbe said that Asher is one of the three tribes that is in the camp of Dan. Right, there were 12 sons of Jacob, and they were put into, they were also arranged into three different camps. The camp of Dan, camp of Reuven, camp of Yehuda, camp of Yisachar. So it says that these four camps, each one has three. When they were traveling in the desert, so the tribe of Yehuda, I think, went first. I have to look and see. In any case, what's important to us is the tribe of Dan, the right, not the tribe, I'm sorry, yeah, the camp. The camp of Dan went last. And the camp of Dan had in it three tribes. One of the tribes was Asher, the one that got the blessing. And Dan himself those three were the last to travel, and which shows in some way they were the lowest. And said, but on the other hand, they had this tremendous merit that they returned everything that was lost, because they were the last. So anyone who lost anything, they brought it back. This is in spirituality, that basically means us, me and you, that we have to make ourselves humble and return everything that's lost. You see a Jew that's in trouble, spiritual, physically, you have to do what you can to help him out. You have to help out the whole world, right? But charity begins at home. So you have to. It says by means of this humility and this willingness to be the last and the lowest, if it'll help everybody else, something like the foundation of a building, it's the bottom, but it holds everything up. So this is also the foundation of Judaism. And this we have a special blessing, and this will bring the Moshiach. And that's what it says, Yom V'Darom Yerusha. It says over there, that is the blessing which, let's see, Naphtali got, let's see, where is this? Here it goes. Here. Excuse me 1 minute. 1 minute. Yeah. Right. That was a blessing that was given to Naphtali, that you will inherit the south and the west. And the Rebbe explains these are levels of godliness. West is where the Shekhinah is. West is where God's presence is. It's when you went into the temple, you were walking from east to west, toward the west. The Holy of Holies was in the west. God's presence in the west. There's even a higher level, which is called south. South means hot, warm, life. It's even higher than the Shekhinah. That's already the source. This he will attain a blessing to Naphtali. Naphtali was one of the third tribe. in the camp of Dan. And he said, how did he get Yerusha? He'll get it like a Yerusha. Yerusha is an inheritance. That's something you get no matter what your qualifications are. If you happen to be an inheritor, then it doesn't make any difference if you're smart, if you're religious, if you're good, if you're bad. You inherit. That's so it says every Jew, therefore, will get this level of this inheritance of God's presence, the Shekhinah, and the warmth of God. It's an inheritance to every Jew. How? Durach vos, that's what we are now. Durach vos, through what? Through what? Kunt man, what is it? Durach vos, through what? Kunt man, can one acquire to Tzum Yerusha to this level of an inheritance of the Shekhinah and of God's presence? How can you get this? I think it's important to point out over here, the Rebbe is not just writing this to show how smart he is, or to show, to really impress us with these Kabbalistic ideas so we can impress other people that we know. This is a workbook. This is actually being expected from each and every one of us. From each and every one of us. This is not just theoretical. This is very, very practical and actual. Every Jew can reach this and attain this awareness of God. Now, another very important thing. What happens when a person is aware of God? When a person is aware of God, he feels responsibility. He feels responsibility. He feels that he has a responsibility to improve the world according to the Torah. That's why God gave the Torah. The Torah is an instruction book for Jew and non-Jew as well. Jews have a lot more commandments, and the non-Jews have a lot less, and they're not exactly the same thing as commandments, but nevertheless, they are instructions by God. So once a person knows what God is, not that he becomes all calm and peaceful and aware and pleasurable, basking in his spiritual achievements or whatever it is. And that also could be true, but that's not the point of it. The point is empowering us. This empowers, a feeling of God empowers you. It makes you dynamic. Like I always bring up the example of a person that was really attached to God in Judaism is King David. And another example is Moses. Now, these two people, they almost never slept. They were so active all the time, doing, going, fighting, leading, inspiring the Jewish people day and night. This is the last day of Moses' life. He wrote 12 Sefer Torahs. That takes usually a person, as a really fast scribe, he can do it in less than a year, write a Sefer Torah. Maybe a half a year, could be if he works day and night. But to do it in 10 minutes, right? 12 Sefer Torahs means every 10 minutes you're going to say, that's humanly impossible. You can't do anything like that. And even if it was possible, it meant that he just never could rest. Never rested. And that was his whole life was like that. A person that feels godliness, he feels alive, happy, empowered, responsible. Well, how can a person get this infusion of godliness, the Shekhinah and warmth, and receive it as a Yerusha, as an inheritance, because every Jew is the son of God, we return. Of course, the difference is, Durach there, by means of the avodah, the service from Kabbalah, by means of accepting the yoke and self-sacrifice, or for loving another Jew. Loving another Jew. What does it mean, loving another Jew? Wanting to see that another Jew is happy, is successful. Wie gesagt, früher, like we said earlier, as durach avoda, al pitam v'das, according to service, according to logic, ken men nemen elokus, you can get godliness nor and a begrenzt and only in a limited way. Like them groiskeit, from the greatness of your intellect. Or how much you can understand. Over Kabbalah soul, but if a person accepts on himself the yoke, in other words, he says, I'm going to do what God wants, whether I understand it or not, because after all, who am I serving? I'm serving God here. I'm serving the Creator. I'm not doing what Moses wants or what the Lubavitcher Rebbe wants or what King David wants. I'm doing what God himself wants. God manifested himself through Moses. That's how we got the Torah. And through David, that's how we got the idea of Moshiach. And through the Lubavitcher Rebbe, that's how we got Chassidut. But nevertheless, we're not serving any of those people, limited people. We're serving God that's coming through them. Aber Kabbalah soul, if a person serves God according to his intellect, so if he's a very intelligent person, or if he's a very spiritual person, a very sensitive person, and so he can raise up in tremendously high levels. But it's limited. Of a Kabbalah soul, but self-sacrifice, but accepting the yoke of God. And this is when you realize what you're doing is you're doing God's will. Something that basically is totally incomprehensible. Is the Ebergegebenkeit, then your devotion to the Eberster, to God, was irresistible, then you're devoted to God. You're not just devoted to the Torah or to wisdom or to being a good Jew. You're being devoted to God himself, the creator of the universe. And God is unlimited. Because, like we said before, our Yerusha and inheritance is done by all Yidden, by every Jew, is fun. Okay, I got it. Paste this here. What happened? Oh, I guess I didn't have to erase it today. Und deswegen, therefore, can doch das aber sein. Can't be. This thing is jumping away from me. Here we go. Euch behelm, also concealed. Verhalten, concealed. Like we said before, like we said before, who is a fool? Anyone who loses everything that's given to him. So who returns it? Who returns the Judaism of every Jew when they lose it? Kabbalah, by means of accepting the yoke of God, as thus Begila becomes revealed, like you too have the ability of the tribe of Dan to not only return your Jewish feeling that's lost to you, but also to return that of others if they lose it. In Machane Dan, in the camp of Dan himself, well, this is really bad. I have a pointer here. When Machane Dan, the camp of Dan itself, is Shevet Asher. Asher was the Mitzvah Shevet. It was the middle one. We said before that Dan went first, right? All the camps traveled. The last camp to travel in the desert, right, in the line of all the camps, the last camp was Dan. But in Dan itself, there were three tribes: the tribe of Dan, the tribe of Asher, and the tribe of Naphtali. So Dan went first. Asher, that's really the topic of this whole speech, he was in the middle. Nit katzavos, not on one end or the other. No emtsai, meshubach, penimius shebaregel. This is, so to speak, the middle part, the most balanced part of the last tribe, the last camp to travel. Azoivi Machane Dan, just like the camp of Dan, is in Allgemein generally had kapoilt oich of all Yidden, affected all the Jews. Like we said, they brought back what was lost. Azoi oich also Shevet Asher, also the tribe of Asher, especially Hat Mashpia Given, he really had an effect on all the Jews. And we can also embody this high. We'll see how we'll see. and looks like a sign here. Like it says, by Asher in the end of the Torah, the blessings that Moses gave, right at the very end of the Torah. Yehi Rotzu Yachav, you should be accepted by all of your brothers. And the rabbis say, as had gegeben Speis, he gave food to all of the other Jews, B'shanas HaShemitah, in the years of the sabbatical year. The sabbatical year, the 7th year when the farmers couldn't bring produce, sometimes there wouldn't be produce. As Asher had so much produce, he would give to everyone else for free. But we'd have to understand what's the connection between Hashpah from Shevet Asher and Shemitah. Why is it he only provided in the years of Shemitah, the 7th year, Asher, in the sabbatical year, like it's called? The sabbatical year in Judaism is only in the land of Israel, and it's only for farmers. And most of them, other people are also affected, but the laws are mostly for farmers. Farmers are not allowed to work the land and to harvest their crops, etc., on the Shemitah year. There are a lot of laws. It's fairly complicated, but nevertheless, that's the main principle. You have to let the land rest. Okay, what's this connected especially to Asher that we have to learn? Humility and etc. That's okay. That we learned. We learned that lesson already. Asher, you have to be humble. You have to realize that you're a creation of God. You have to care about other people. You have to try to befriend others and be pleasant to others, be loving to others, especially Jews we're talking about. You have to be friendly and pleasant and loving to everybody. But like I say, charity begins at home. You have to start from the Jews. It says that Asher, he was this example of humility, and he was at the end. And it says by Asher that he used to provide food for all the other Jews in the sabbatical year, in the year when the farmers didn't work on the land, so they were dependent on the food that grew up automatically on its own from the ground. So what's this got to do especially with Asher? Let's read it. It says in the Shemitah year, it says like this. What am I going to eat? Right? If we don't work on the 7th year, so what am I going to eat in the 8th year? What am I going to eat next year? Right? First of all, what am I going to eat in the 7th year? So you can say, oh, in the 7th year, I have some left over from the previous year. But what about the 8th year? I didn't work on the whole. What am I going to eat? So God says, don't worry. I'll give my blessing on the 6th year. There's going to be enough for the 6th year and the 7th year and the 8th year. And even for the 9th year. Hadach, the bracha, the blessing, Gedarf Zayin, by all of this is by all the other tribes, is for once. Why does it say only especially by Asher? Asher is the one that he was the kind one, and he gave food to everybody. He had so much food in the 6th year, he gave to everybody. The blessing is for everybody. Why only Asher? Says the Rebbe, I'll explain this, and I'll explain it also what's relevant to me and you. The Inyan of Shemitah, this whole idea of the Shemitah, Hayor, that year, is Dach Shnas Shemitah. No, it says the Rebbe, this year, in fact, this year was a Shemitah year, last year. Very clear, in Pasuk says in the sentence, as Darv Zayin, and Shavisas, or the earth has to rest, in the Malachas, from Charisha, from all the things, the agricultural work, like plowing and planting and harvesting. The Charisha, B'Katzir, Tishbo. The Malacha, those types of work, Vel Chazayin, which are verbunden, connected, mit menschlicher Speis, human food, darfen abgestellt werden, have to be stopped. Zagdoif, then the sentence says, if you want to say, what are we going to eat on the next year, whatever, the answer is, I will give my blessing. Is dach in plug, nit for standing. It's not understandable. Noch was darf men das yitur lashon bechitomru. Why does it have to say? It's very interesting. If you look in the Torah, what does it say? It says, hey, you farmers, on the 7th year, don't work. Don't work. Don't grow anything. Don't harvest anything. And then it should say immediately afterwards, and I'll give my blessing to the previous year. You're going to have a lot of food. But it doesn't say it like that. What does it say? And if you ask, what am I going to eat in the other years? Why does the Torah suppose you're going to ask questions? Just give the answer and that's it. Right? Don't work and I'll get my blessing. Don't worry about it. Like on Shabbat. It's one of the 10 commandments to rest on Shabbat. What does it say? And if a person says, what am I going to do? I'm going to lose 1/7 of my income. What am I going to do? And God says, don't worry. It doesn't say that. It just says, keep the day of Shabbat. You know you have to trust God. The same thing should be with the 7th year. 7th year, God says, don't work on the land. And that's it. And God could have said afterwards, okay, you know what? Don't work on the land. I'll give a blessing so you won't have to worry. But that's not what the Torah says. The Torah says, and if you might ask, what am I going to eat on those years that I don't work? And what about the year that's afterwards? I'm not going to work on the land if I don't. Why does the Torah suppose you're going to ask? Even more. Vostar Torah oiftan. Why does the Torah even have to make a question? Is a shayla. If it's a question in the Torah, so we have to say that as oich di kasha, it must have a place in holiness. It must be a good thing to ask that question. Well, what am I going to eat from? This means as they're oiftu, that the whole main accomplishment of the Shemitah year is zolzain nit in them. Often it shouldn't be in a way which stellt sich nit lechatchila kein kashas. This means that the Shemitah year has to be in such a way that you will ask questions. Nor the alien, but the idea is as stellt sich davka questions, you'll be asking questions. Un a starke kasha, it's a very hard question. From deswegen, nevertheless, stellt sich up from arbeit. Nevertheless, don't work. Wie der Rebbe hat geheißen, like God told you to, don't work. In other words, God is telling you, I want you on the Shemitah year to do something that's going to be hard. That's going to be very, very questionable. Don't work on the land. And you want to ask a question, hey, if I don't work on the land, what am I going to eat? That question is good. It's a good question. The answer is going to be even better, you see. Mitzvah Shemitah, in fact, if you don't ask the question, you're not going to appreciate the answer. Mitzvah Shemitah is verbunden with the Zohar plots. The mitzvah Shemitah is connected with such a place. With such things as Yizdal, or there's a place for asking questions. And for deswegen, nevertheless, wirkt in nit, he doesn't work. I'm saying, wirkt as nit, or if it does not affect at all the conduct of Jews. And therefore, is Svisi Brachasi. Where does the blessing come from? The blessing comes from precisely that. The blessing comes from the fact that you will ask a question, and the questions that you have do not affect your actions at all. Even that what God says, I will command my blessing, is nit in an oven is not such a way as men vet nit darfen ankommen zu tavua ha'oretz. You don't have to come to eat. Maybe God could say, listen, don't worry about it. You won't be hungry. I'll make one full year you won't have to eat. God could do anything he wants. No. You're going to be natural. You're going to have to want you eat. You're going to need food. And a person will naturally ask a question, one second, where's the food going to come from? Azoivias is given by Moshe like it was by Moshe. For instance, Moses, he was 40 years on Mount Sinai. He didn't eat anything. Maybe God could make the same thing for everybody. As a zoich nit boif, it's also not in a way as zol zayin a koch, a special power in food from Shana Shishis you'll eat in the 6th year, as midem koch with this from Essen, the 6th year, from the power that you eat on the 6th year, that means you'll be satisfied for this, the whole, also this on the 6th year, the 7th year as well. Like there's the story about Elijah the prophet, that he ate a little cookie or something like that, and he walked for 3 days. 30 days, I'm sorry, walked for 30 days, didn't have to eat anything. No, maybe that could be. V is like it's by Elioniv, like by Elijah the prophet. Was Ered get gespeist 50 days, I'm sorry, not 30 days. 40 days, wait, 40 days with the power from a little bit of eating one little cookie or something he ate. Nor, as vet sign with Sivisius brother, God said, don't worry. How is it going to be that you're going to eat on the 6th and the 7th years? I'm going to give a special blessing. There'll be bread and food in the 7th year itself. There's going to be, don't worry about it. There'll be enough, things that grow up automatically from the ground, right, from the leftovers. Not like the manna, was manhattan it field all the time in which you could feel all the tastes that there were. You feel that it was a miracle. When it says nit gaven in him kind pasolos, and there wasn't any waste, they didn't have to go to the bathroom. Just 1 minute.